real conversations, and some hard truths. Gangs, drugs, and guns. Giving a voice to those willing to sacrifice. We have stories that need to be told. We have lessons that need to be taught. Protect and serve. Welcome to The Quiet Professional. Hey everybody, welcome back. Nathan Romas with you. Today I am speaking with two guests. I have Mark Arnold and Matthew Russell here, both firefighters with the Mississauga Fire and Emergency Services. We will be discussing the physical and mental health of their profession, job standards, as well as some workplace safety aspects. Mark and Matt are co-authors of the book 100 Fire Hall Workouts, Extinguishing Excuses. Great play on words there, which is an interactive guide and workbook to increase fitness levels. And they are co-founders of Firefighter Fitness Canada, which is a framework for departments to incentivize fitness and deliver tools to help members control their health and wellness. Mark, individually, say Mark has over 25 years as a first responder. He was a police officer with the Peel Regional Police Service and now has over 18 years as a firefighter. And Matt spent 5 years with the Calgary Police or Calgary Fire Service and has been with Mississauga for 7. He also owns Red Line Leather, which makes leather goods for firefighters. So very cool, guys. Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having us on, Nathan. Appreciate the offer.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you both here. You know what? We're going to start talking about you guys, just a little bit of background and find out what got you into firefighting. And if you could include in there, though, why don't you jump from police to fire? Because I know lots of cops talk about this. And then also for you, Matt, you're with the Calgary Fire Service and now you're out in Mississauga. So if you want to talk about just that switch as well.
Yeah, I guess ultimately, keep it short and sweet. I remember just in high school not wanting to kind of work in an office, that whole idea. And I remember a couple of family friends were firefighters and they always just seemed to be happy. And just very jovial and helping people out and just seemed to always talk about their job and enjoy it. So that was kind of like my inclination to try to go towards firefighting. And then, yeah, just that's just how the ball started rolling. So then, as many people know, just with getting hired in policing or firefighting, it has its barriers and hoops to jump through to get hired. So I was able to do a test here in Ontario for Calgary, just to get practice going through all the stages. So next thing you know, that process took 8 or 9 months. And next thing you know, they're like, do you want a job? And I was like, well, I do, but I don't really want to leave home.
Oh, okay.
But you can't really, take that lottery ticket and just say, nah, I'll get the next one. So moved out to Calgary, spent, almost 5 years exactly. And it was probably some of the best 5 years of my life for sure. And then the only reason I tried to come back was just because of family, right? If Calgary was like a 2-hour drive from home or something, then I'd probably still be there. But the pull for family and then one day starting my own family was the big factor to move back home. But Calgary was awesome. Mississauga's been just as great, and that's kind of my brief story.
Awesome. And for you, Mark?
Yeah. So my sister is a paramedic. My other brother is a firefighter, and I was the cop in the family who got hired really young. But I think all of our desire was to help people and to be in a profession where you could make an impact. And that was my early desire, was to want to go into service and to help other people. I got hired really young. I got hired when I was 20 years old and then had to wait to go to police college. And so I started policing when I was 21 and gave my 20s really to the police service. And it was awesome. I loved it. There was so much stuff to do and so much autonomy. And I grew so much in my 20s and learned so much about people and society and everything. But at that point too, like that was in the late 90s and early 2000s. I mean, that was a whole as people who policed during that era know it was entirely different than it is now. And and like Matt too, I was like, I want something that's going to provide me with um, a little more time for my family and a better schedule. And to be quite honest, I was getting burnt out, like in terms of just dealing with the people and we know it's a thankless job, and so part of that too is where Matt and I are like, well, how do we create that peace, and how do we help first responders develop that resilience and to help them get to their end of their career, both mentally well and physically well,
Yeah.
right? And we've both seen through our careers where people haven't made it, haven't done well, and then on the other side, there's like people who seem to get through okay, right? And but as much as we help other people at calls and every 911 call, it would really be awesome if we're able to help our own people first so they can help more people and be better at calls and to be less stressed and to show up as their best self. And I think that's, the next stage where we're at, where we've done a ton of years in the emergency services. And how can I think we're at the point where we're looking inwards, and it's like, how do we develop a framework um, to best help our own people?
Yeah. You know what? Actually, that's a really good point because I think for too long, we actually didn't take care of ourselves. And there is a time to be, I guess, selfish. And it's this good word to use, but it's like, yeah, we do have to take care of ourselves because if you're good, then you can help more people, right? You can do a better job when you're out there, whatever it is, talking to people, saving lives, the whole spectrum in between. So very cool. You know what? And you guys come from two kind of different backgrounds, but almost similar in a lot of ways. Maybe we'll jump into talking about some of the initiatives that you got here. So you got the book, you have Firefighter Fitness Canada. Can you just tell us what kind of got you guys into creating this and what was that like? Because I don't imagine making like your book is very detailed and it's very cool and I'll put the links up in the episode description so people can go find it. But in the book, it lays out a workout. It's got a little QR code. You click that, it takes you straight to YouTube video to see how to do it. Like lots of thought went into this. So can you talk about just creating these two entities and what that process was like?
Yeah, well, I think we started, and the problem we found was that, kind of like our little subtitle, Extinguishing Excuses, we found that, especially firefighters, we always have some form of excuse. So the big one was, oh, I forgot shorts today, or I didn't bring shoes, or I'm tired, or whatever it is you can think of. It's there. We've all come up with it in our own ways. So Mark and I were kind of like tired of hearing that, and figured, well, how can we eliminate all of the excuses so that you don't have any more? And that's kind of how like the book started. It's like, well, if we give you a workout, then you have the idea. And then if we fill it with a spot to like that you can journal and make notes, then there's that kind of improvement piece and that tracking piece. If we give you some motivational quotes in there for each workout, then there's your little push. And then if we write little blurbs in there that are going to relate to why working out is important and how it's better for your health and the job and your crew, etc. And then we're like, well, if we put this little neat QR code there, that it's like, if you don't know how to do something, then well, you can scan that with your phone because everyone has a phone, and we can show you a video how to do it. So just started ticking off all these excuses that it's like, well, that's not a valid excuse anymore, nor is that one, nor is that one. So why don't we just start? And that's kind of how it started and came to be. And then next thing you know, it was a book.
Well, I like that you guys, with the videos, it shows you like the exact thing you're talking about, right? Because some of these workouts, like I don't know, it's like the Greco-Roman, whatever lift. And you're like, I don't know what the hell the difference between that and some other lift is, right? The 2 times Greco one. So it's just like, okay, this is the exact thing we're talking about. Direct link, boom, super easy. Can you also explain why you two are co-authors and working on these things together? Are you like the 2 biggest gurus with fitness? You guys the ones that always go bug people to get into the gym? No, you say no.
I love to say that we're like, well, at least I think that we're like entirely average and like middle of the pack. That's what I love to say. Because, I think there's 2 things you need when you're trying to convince other first responders, police or fire to do things, and that's authority, right? So if you don't have enough time on, they're going to be like, what does that guy know?
Yeah,
Right?
true.
The message just doesn't hit well. And if you're not living that or like setting an example, they're just going to be like, you know what, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about, right? Or conversely, if you received a message from outside of the organization, like if it came from a fitness person or a fitness professional that wasn't a police officer, they'd be like, well, that guy doesn't know, or that woman doesn't know the challenges of shift work and how tired I am, or like, listen, I've only got an hour to work out on my lunch, or they don't know the equipment that I have at the station, right? So when the solution comes from within the organization, it has, I think, a greater ability to change. And there's the authority piece, but the second one is the empathy, right? Is that we're exactly like you. We've been where you are. We know where you're coming from. We know where you're going, and we understand. So because we've been through there and we've been through this gauntlet, here's what you can do. And here's a handout. We're going to show you how to do it. And, just follow us and we'll show you the way to go.
Mm-hmm. What was the process like even getting a book started? Like, where do you go to even start that?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, Mark's family has all written books. Everyone in their family has written a book, so that was a big help.
Yeah.
But I think what people don't realize is anyone can write a book. So there is kind of like that imposter syndrome to a certain degree, where you're like, yeah, we put a book out, and like, but really anyone can do it. It's just work, and that's like most things out there. Is you can do pretty much anything you want, but you have to put in the work, and that kind of again ties back into the excuses things. There's a whole lot of talk out there.
Mm-hmm. But what about the the Firefighter Fitness Canada? Was this like did this come first and then the book, or vice versa? And what do you do with the bigger organization?
Well, let me address it. Like, one, it's like it sounds like a big organization, and but it's really Matt and I. And as we grow, we want to work with other people and bring other people on that are going to be able to help. But the idea is that we didn't really feel like we were taking anybody's job.
Okay.
Like, nobody was doing this. Nobody was doing it really well, and we didn't have the money, right? So when we're making this book, it's like, well, we can just film this content on our phones or film it in a gym. We'll put it up to YouTube. That's free. We'll make this book. We'll pay an editor. We're spending our own money to create this entity, right? To be able to sell as a resource for people who are firefighters who wanted to be firefighters, and then we're able to roll that money from the book sales into sort of the next piece,
Mm-hmm.
which was the creation of the Firefighter Fitness Canada. And having the background in policing was helpful because they had a fitness program that started, and there was a program there where they had the Ontario Police Fitness Award, and every year you would go do a standard battery of tests, and at the end of that, you'd pass, and you get a little tiny pin that you could wear on your carrier, or just to say, hey, I met a minimum standard. And it was completely voluntary, and but it was something.
Yeah.
And in firefighting, you go out to a party or a function or a social setting, and people would be like, oh, like what do you have to do to be a firefighter, or what do you have to do to stay in shape to do the work? And you know, when you get on, you have to go through a series of tests to get to that point to get the job. But then after that, there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's no annual test, right? And I think you find that in policing too, right? You probably get a question and be like, well, what do you have to do to prove that you're still in shape to do the work? And people are shocked when there's no standard.
Yeah, with policing, so we have, at least in Edmonton, you have to run your fitness test every year. But if you don't do good on it, it doesn't have any effect on your job. Like you're not benched. It's just, hey, you need to improve. And there you go. And now it's on you to actually go and try and improve it. So yeah, I see what you're saying.
Well, that's a step above where we were, which was like you just had this idea in your head of where you were.
Yeah.
So we sort of we I pitched the idea to Matt. I'm like, hey, how cool would it be to have like a firefighter fitness pin and an award where we can, say like, here's where we sort of feel the standard is based on, battery of tests. And then when you pass that, then you get a cool little pin that you can put on your uniform and wear. And, it gives departments the framework to incentivize their member health and well-being, right? And if you want to improve upon the department's fitness, you need to be able to measure it.
Hmm.
And currently, we had no metrics to be able to measure any of that. So, I think what we're doing is like we have these pins and they're cool, but really it's that framework for departments to be able to take that data and then to be able to say, hey, we've had more people do our tests this year. We've had, they're improving upon their scores. They can take that to council or take that to request more funding for fitness equipment. And that's where I see like the real incredible value in the program. And for the firefighters, they get a cool pin and, it's a personal accountability piece.
Yeah.
But like I said, nobody was doing it. Right. So it was our sort of foot in the door.
Yeah. That was kind of one of the questions I was going to ask too was, is this like a Canada wide thing or is that where you're looking to take it? So it sounds like you can at least create this and certainly take it in that direction. Do you know for other services or in other provinces, what are their standards or practices? Like maybe Matt can speak to this, but do they have an annual fitness test here in Alberta? What's anybody else kind of doing out there?
I know that with Calgary, they do, maybe they don't anymore, but they used to do a yearly physical fitness test as well. And you'd go see a doctor and you'd get all those metrics if you chose to take part. So, same thing, all voluntary, all non punitive.
Mm.
And over the course of your career, year over year, they'd give you your metrics of like, yeah, this is what you got on these tests, and this is how your hearing is, this is how your lung capacity is, and you have those metrics to do with what you please. So, you'd always have a couple guys that would go and say, I didn't partake, I don't care, or whatever, and that's fine. That's whatever you want to do with that time. It's your time. But the vast majority of people would go and they'd be like, oh, this is how many pull-ups I did this year compared to last year and the year before. And maybe I need to get back training a little bit more. Or, oh, I'm stronger than I was last year, but I'm older and I have another kid. And it's like, this is great. Like, I just need to stay on the path kind of thing. So I always found great value in that. And it was awesome to see. And then again, have that data. So that's basically what we're trying to replicate, which is also what the police were doing with their kind of pin test and fitness test. The difference with us is that it's all kind of hands off on our part. So we've built the entire program. So, talking to some of these departments when they sign up and they ask what are the next steps, and we give them a sheet like, hey, this is step by step what you're going to do, but here's everything you need to do it.
Okay.
And so the department now has all the tools to provide this to their members. And if they wanted, they can do that, one of 3 or 4 ways, but ultimately it's on the firefighters themselves. So if they want to take part and they want to do it and they want to do it alone, go for it. They want to do it as a crew, go for it. They want to do it on their own time, at the hall, at training. They can do it however they want. So there's that piece to it where you're not having to take firefighters off the trucks on shift, which is incredibly hard in many departments because you just don't have the time, right? Because you got all your training, all your calls, and everything else. So that's just one aspect where we were like, how do we make this more
accessible, I guess,
usable and accessible,
yeah.
right? So we've kind of taken a piece of pretty much our own little histories and what other people have done and kind of made it our own and kind of tried to find all these different ways that, again, we can get rid of these excuses for why we wouldn't be able to do these activities and tests and get these metrics and help each other out.
So what have you guys found when you look at some of the services around your area or yours in particular and the creation of standards? So it's like, hey, we want to do this annual fitness test. We want to make sure people are at least, I don't know if they're staying the same, at least, or maybe getting better. What's that been like? Is it a big fight to get it like just an annual test in there? And around that, what would those standards look like? Is it different for males and females? Like, where's that kind of at?
Yeah, that's certainly a challenge, right? And I think one of the major roadblocks to fitness testing in the past in the fire service has been unions, and they don't want to have people fail a fitness test and then have to fight for their job. And I understand that, but it's also like there's an expectation set, and it was set from the beginning, and you should be able to meet that expectation that the public has. And that can be hard for a lot of people, right? As you get older, but that's where we're trying to help. And I think that's where we're coming from. It's like, hey, we're not trying to make it hard for people. We're actually saying, here's where you should be. If you're not there, we'll help you. We'll give you a plan to get up to the standard. But ultimately, you have to do the work.
Yeah.
Or we can't do it for you. That's what fitness is, right? It's like if you achieve a high level of fitness, it's not because you took shortcuts and you didn't put the time in. Like you did that. They can't take that away from you. And we wanted to get people back that locus of control, the feeling like, hey, I can do this on my own. And sometimes they got stuck because they were confused, or they maybe felt like they weren't a fitness person, or they didn't want to look, like they didn't know what they're doing in the gym, and we're like, hey, we can help you with that. We can give you a plan. We can show you what to do. If you don't want to do it at the hall, you can do it at your own, like on your own in your basement or whatever in your garage. But hey, it's ultimately up to you. And that personal responsibility piece was big for us.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think the organizations share a responsibility in that too, in terms of being able to have a framework for people to be able to look after themselves. So that's what we're sort of providing.
Yeah.
It's a two-pronged approach.
I would say, like, you bring up a really good point there. There's some organizational accountability here where they have to also, it's kind of like the top down part of it, where it's like they have to say this is important and then show people like, why is it important, right? You guys are working kind of from the ground level up, trying to get people to do things and motivate them. But I mean, as an organization, they've got generally a broader reach, right? Just being the organization, they're going to have however many followers on social media or whatever connections in government to change things. So they've got that reach just by default. Yeah, it definitely has to become a cultural thing where they start implementing like, hey, this is why we're doing this and this is why it's important. Do you find with like kind of the excuse making side, and we're talking about unions, because this is one of the gripes I have, and obviously I'm part of an association here. Are they, there's some aspect where it's like, okay, we're not trying to fire people, but I might not be firing this person over here, but if they can't do their job to a standard that we need, I'm putting my other member or members at risk. So I think that kind of gets lost Usually, when I've seen on our side of things, when we try to bring something up, if it's something that the union wants to fight, they look at it instantly from the, I'll say, the defensive side, where it's like, well, I'm going to take this one person's side, but they forget that whatever that person isn't doing or capable of doing has a ripple effect. It goes out to all the other members, right? So that's just something, and you kind of touched on it where it's in there. So do you think, is your battle more with kind of the union side of things, or would it be more with this I'm going to say the police service, the fire service itself?
Do you want to handle that one, Maddie, or?
Well, I'm. This is more just thinking out loud, but I don't think the fire service unions by any means are out there to hurt anyone or to take anything away from people. Like all the people I've met in the unions over the years have all been people who are deeply passionate and care about their people more so than the average person. And I think at the end of the day, what they're looking for is how do I help their fellow workers as well as keep them safe in many different aspects of the word, and just how do I best look out for them. So that's kind of where that non-punitive piece comes in. And then obviously as well, because a lot of these metrics and data would be related to health metrics, it has to be anonymous, right? So that's kind of where we built in to kind of avoid any kind of union issue. I say issues, but really, again, a union looking out for the betterment of their members, of, again, the two heads going at each other, is, all that data is sent to us, right? So we're that, second party or third party, I'd rather say. So the city doesn't see it, the union doesn't see it. All that data is anonymous. And the individual firefighter, if they chose to share that with their crew, for instance, or their colleagues, then it's like, yeah, that's just so they can, talk about it, how they can improve. Maybe they did it together, how we can just overall be better as a team. So yeah, I don't think the union is out there to hurt anyone. And really, I don't think any of like the cities for the most part and the higher ups on that side are really trying to hurt anyone either. I think they're just ultimately just trying to get that data, and how can we use that data to better our people. And without any data, there's nothing to go on, and everyone's just talking. So again, I think we're trying to get that data in the hands of our people so they can make self-improvements. We're trying to get that data in the hands of the departments so they can see how important like physical fitness is for not only our physical well-being, but our mental well-being. How can we use that data to then, keep people on fire trucks, continue to come to work? And then kind of that other prong that we have is like a fitness app. So let's say, how do we help our fellow firefighters pass this fitness test? And how do we help firefighters that may not be at work return to work or feel confident and capable to come back to work? Or even maybe certain firefighters dealing with confidence issues as a whole. Like, well, how do you get more confident? Like, you start lifting weights, you start working out, you feel more confident in yourself, carry yourself a little bit better, and all these things snowball. So it's all interconnected and related, right? But yeah, that initial question, I don't think anyone's out there to kind of really hurt anyone. It's just, how do we find the best way to provide help and value to all of our members without stepping on each different, I'll call it, head's toes.
Yeah.
In a workaround way because again, they're all trying to look out for their best interests, which at the end of the day is the best interest of the city and the people and so on.
Yeah, there's a bit of a fundamental difference though. Like, whenever a union proposes an idea, then there seems to sometimes be an antagonistic relationship, right? And then, likewise, if management proposes an idea, it's just a terrible idea to the unions, right? So for us, we're a third party, right? Where I think they generally can agree, like, this is something that they want. They want healthier employees, and it's not a union idea and it's not a management idea. So, they can't argue, right? So, but fundamentally between policing and fire too, if you look at the totality of the fire services, what percentage do you think actually are unionized?
I wouldn't know.
Okay, so if you look at the Canada and US numbers are really quite the same, but in the US, the total percentage of firefighters that are that are volunteer or like
Mhm.
this isn't their full-time job? Any guesses on what percentage that would be?
I didn't even know there'd be a difference. I guess I just assumed that if you're a firefighter, whether you're volunteer or not, you should have some kind of coverage or somebody representing you. Seems like a pretty dangerous thing to do without having representation. So I was going to guess like maybe 10%.
Yeah, so it's way off. Like no, in so when I say volunteer firefighter, it's like people from the community that like in a lot of small communities, they'll wear a pager or get a text on their phone, and then they drop what they're doing, go to the fire hall, hop on the truck, and then go do whatever that is, an extrication or go to a house fire or whatever. And in Canada, that number is actually like over 80% of the total number of firefighters.
Oh, okay.
So, and then the actual, like the number of professional firefighters, are what we think of as like, um, professionals, which would be Calgary and Edmonton and the big cities and stuff. Um, that's a really, really small number. It's, like it's going to be in that 20% range, right? So if you're looking at, if we're looking at the totality of the problem here, um, like 85 to 90% of the total number of departments are volunteer and they're not professional. So you're talking a huge number of people who are completely underserviced. They have no framework for fitness. And they're working in such small, like every little small town, every intersection that you go to driving through the country has its own individual fire department. And that may be like
Yeah.
10 people. And they're just members of
Yeah.
the community, right? So do you think they have a fitness expert on staff or a health and wellness department that's able to help them?
Mm.
And the problem is these people they'll get the call, they get their stuff on, they go to the call and their desire and to want to help at these calls and their work capacity, it gets exceeded by their desire to want to help, right? And
Yeah.
unfortunately, people end up dying because they're just not they're not prepared to do the work. And so that's where Matt and I are like, hey, this is a problem that's not being addressed. And we want to be able to help and be able to give them that framework and to be able to be like, hey, here's an app, you have a phone. Here's these workouts. We have 365 days of workouts. We have the videos are on there. Like it's all there. Right. And
Mm.
once again, all these small departments don't have any program to look after their people, right? It would be like in Edmonton, you have auxiliaries, right?
Yeah.
It's the same idea, really, like in terms of volunteers, like they're just members of the community that are essentially doing the work.
Well, and the other interesting thing to add to that is, we're very fortunate in Mississauga that when you get to a call, and if it's a bigger call that requires like a larger response, chances are that second, third, fourth truck are like anywhere from 10 seconds to a minute behind. So you have people coming to help you. And okay, if we need to get these 4 jobs done immediately, it's like, yeah, they're going to get done and more people are going to be coming to help. That's not always the case with volunteer departments because you could have, let's say, one full-time truck, for instance, and they go to a call and there's 3 people on that truck, maybe 4 if they're lucky. And that's it for maybe 15, 20 minutes, maybe less, maybe more. So there's not really anywhere to hide. So that's where when Mark talks about their desire to help exceeding their capacity to help
Hmm.
really comes into play because now you're not getting a break. Now you're not switching off with someone. And that's where, like, I mean, again, the leading cause of death in the fire service, I believe, is cardiovascular emergencies. Mark, that's the case?
Yeah, that'd be on the fire ground. I mean, on the fire ground, it's going to be people having like heart attacks just because they're wearing their bunker gear, they're overheating, and they're going from like, hey, I don't really do a lot outside of work. I'm a whatever. I work at Dan's grocery store, and now I'm being asked to do like firefighting activities, and that leap is too much, right?
Yeah. This sounds like it reminds me a lot of my time when I was with the RCMP. So I did a couple of years there, and it's like, yeah, you can go out to a call and you're the only person there and you're working a long time. Like you could be on real long shifts and you don't have anybody really coming to help out. So, a couple of points there just to kind of go back a little bit to the union stuff. I certainly don't think unions are out there to hurt people, but what I think is missing, and this is kind of the divisiveness that you were explaining, Mark, where it's like, I think people don't know what they don't know, and they don't know how to look at a problem from two sides. So when you go to the union, you say, "Hey, I want to create fitness standards." They, knee jerk response might be, "Well, then we're going to have people off of work, right? Like I can't have people off of work, and if we fire people, no one pays into the pension." But they're not thinking about the other side of it, right? And this is where I was talking about the ripple effects, where it's like, you have to be able to kind of see the 360 on the problem. So it's like, well, okay, this person can't meet the fitness standards. What impact does that have on the other people working with them? So I think a lot of the stuff, I'll say the older school mentality is just like the very one-sided, or it's just kind of like the knee-jerk response. It's the statements we always hear, like, well, that's just the way it is. It's like, well, can we do better by everybody, right? So I certainly don't think the unions are out there to hurt anybody. I think they're just lacking that perception and kind of like, learning how to ask the right questions. It's certainly something I had to do in the policing world, and just on going through this podcast stuff. I mean, I talked to some really brilliant people on here, and the perspective you start to learn from that, and like how to ask questions and what questions to ask. I'll go into some conversations and ask certain questions, and you can see it's like, even of management, it's like, I don't know if it's blowing their minds or they're just starting to turn the wheels. Like, you're like, you never thought of this, but it's like, yeah, they haven't thought of this. So I guess your guys' job, not to tell you what to do, but your guys' job and what you're already doing is educating them on this, right? Trying to teach them, here's the both sides to the equation, the problem that we have. We're trying to help these people for these reasons, which will in turn help this side of the equation. And then just the other thing that I think you brought it up, Matt, talking about your own data. I think that is something that's really important. We get this issue in policing all the time because we always get all the bullshit from the US flowing up here, all the narratives and everything. So we instantly get equated to the US. A lot of our stats, so like stats for shootings or for violence, a lot of that can come from the US. That's like, but they have a very different situation. I imagine for firefighters, you are a big city or you're that volunteer person out in rural area. You're going to have two very different jobs, right? So having your own data that's local, that speaks to your own issues is super important. I know management and sometimes don't like getting into that because you're going to pay somebody a lot of money to come in and figure this out and then track it over years. But man, it's like one of the most important things you could do is having your own data, because it's also speaking to that piece where it's like, the people there on the front line doing this stuff, they know if that data is real or not. They're going to the calls. So if you start giving numbers out that you're like, where do they get these numbers from? We don't do that, or we never have that happen here. I think that's a really important piece. So yeah, you guys I think you're really on the ball with a lot of this stuff, and you're heading in the right direction. So, and sorry, I don't know if I cut one of you off there if you were going to speak on your other points, but maybe we talk a little bit about the standards. I have questions about, like, when you first get in to firefighting, what do those standards look like? And is there a difference for men and women? Because I see a lot of females on the job now, and I'm just wondering, like, what is the standard around that, and how does the fire service handle that difference, if there is one in the standards?
I think the biggest thing with the difference in standards is usually based on weight and time. So I know for a long period of time, they've been doing the CPAT test, for instance. So that'll be a series of tests that you'll do, like an obstacle course, if you will. And for that test, I actually don't think there's a weight difference. And by weight difference, I mean I think the weighted vest you would wear would be the same for everyone. So it's kind of standardized, and you just have to finish that test and under a certain period of time. Um, you may not get the most accurate answer from us because, again, it's been a while for us since we've had to do anything like that. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of the time these fitness tests to get on are used more of as a yes to see if you're fit and capable to do the job, but also as a criteria to lower the amount of applicants. So departments
Mm.
may choose to add in, let's say, a swim test. So again, you're going to maybe eliminate people who can't swim or can't follow instructions. Um, but it doesn't, like, someone who's already really, really fit usually does these tests and they're like, great, awesome, thanks. I got my piece of paper and going to carry on. And then someone who maybe isn't as fit, who might just barely pass or doesn't pass, again, has something to strive for, to work for, to get better. Um, but again, ultimately, what happens is then after the fact, when you do get hired, we come back to that same issue: is there's nothing.
Yeah.
Some departments won't have any kind of physical fitness standard um, or test as a requirement to get hired. So it's kind of fallen by the wayside in some respects. I know the VO2 test is a big one that's used for a lot of departments. Yeah, Mark, anything else to add?
Yeah. Here's the kicker. The work doesn't change whether you're male or female, strong or weak. That task needs to get done. And we don't have different packs. Like, our packs are 35 pounds, our gear is 25 pounds. And then you start adding tools and hose lines and all that stuff. Like, we were out at last night, going up and down stairwells and parking complex, and we probably had over 100 pounds of gear. So
Hmm.
if you're a 200-pound male, it's just going to be easier for you than if you're a smaller person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
regardless of male or female.
Yeah.
'Cause, again, speaking of that, there's definitely a ton of females who are firefighters all over the world who are in
Capable.
incredible shape.
Yeah.
And would definitely make me look like I needed to do more work. And then same thing with guys, though. There's tons of guys that you're like, maybe you should pick it up a little bit. So it's as much as we want to paint this picture of male versus female, it's just, are you capable or not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And it's like, that weight thing is a hard one to get over, because it's like, if you're carrying like 80% of your own body weight, if you're, that's a lot of weight, right? So you're going to be working at a higher
Hmm.
capacity, and really more is going to be expected of you if you're smaller, right? You're going to have to
Yeah.
actually perform at a higher capacity than somebody who's a bit bigger. But it's like, there's certain fixed factors that we just can't change. And knowing your limitations is big too.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, like, in comparison to getting into policing, like, fire, in my mind, seems like such a physical job. Like, it's all physical. And correct me if I'm wrong, but when you look at, like, policing in comparison, where there's a huge push to diversify and have females, and it's like, well, okay, but there's certain jobs within policing where it's like tactical. You got to carry X amount of equipment and you're wearing all this gear. Like, I don't know what else you could change about that. So you either can do it or you can't do it when it comes to that physical aspect. Policing in general, for the general patrol officer out there, those are like you could have all kinds of people in there, because it's not always, you're not just out there fighting all the time. And there's a lot of different units you could go to. Does anything like that exist in fire? Is it like you're on the truck, you're carrying the gear, like, got one function to do?
In the States, for sure, they're definitely more specific in their roles. Um, Definitely more across Canada. It's, you kind of have to be the jack of all trades, because you're going to mix in between, going from a pump to an aerial to whatever else they need. So in terms of job specific tasks, yeah, you again, I know it's bigger in the States, but you could be a driver, kind of the engineer of that vehicle, and that's all you do. Um,
Hmm.
then in Canada, that's not always the case. We seem to definitely move around the positions, which again, some would argue is great because you know all the roles and you're capable of everything. And then others would argue that like, well, how can you be really good at that one job?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're seen as an asset in the organization if you have the capacity to do a bunch of different things, right? So the more skills you can bring to the table, whether you have a great work capacity, you can push things, you can get the work done. You have technical knowledge, right? You're confident in your abilities. Like you want to be that go-to person, and I think sometimes, when there may be. Well, I wanted to ask you a question, like in your service, like how many people are off right now? Because we seem to be having an issue with people just going off and then just never coming back.
I think, and I don't know individually the reasons why, but in general, I think it's something like 10% of our service is at any given time off. But that's everything from like mat and pat leave to in physical injuries, mental health, like it could be anything, but 10%.
Yeah. And so, Matt and I looked at this and we're like, okay, well, how much is that costing the organization?
Yeah.
How much is that costing?
A lot.
Millions of dollars, right?
Mhm.
And we're like, okay, well, what tools do they have to mitigate that? How do we engage people who are off? How do we give them the confidence to be like, okay, I'm ready to come back? Or like, hey, I'm struggling with something, stress leave, or I have some, you know, issues I'm dealing with. Okay, well, I need to do this physical piece to shore up this area so I can make my way and have this bias towards action to get back.
Yeah.
Right now, we don't have a lot of tools to do that.
Well, some of the stuff you guys are doing is certainly on both the proactive and the reactive side, right? So proactively, if a person's getting involved, you're hoping, okay, by doing these things, you won't have a lot of these stressors or you have some sort of outlet for it. On the reactive side, like you're talking about, and that was one thing I was going to ask was like a return to work program, if you guys even have something like that. But, for you offering this, it's like, well, why don't you get involved in doing some fitness stuff? Get out of the house, go just for a walk. Like there's a lot of things you could do to improve your overall feeling and how you're doing. So, do you guys even have a return to work? Is that a thing? Like, do they kind of help bring you back? Do they have different types of programs?
Maddie, you got that one?
Yeah, no, so our department's really good with that. Whether it's, so if someone's on maternity leave, like they'll take you off the trucks beforehand to give you another job, and basically keep you and your baby healthy, and not going to fires and gross things like that. But then yeah, like I came back from a back injury. I guess it's close to 9 months ago, and yeah, they would definitely work with you. Definitely have very specific instructions from the higher up saying, yeah, don't come in this week. Take care of yourself. Come in this next week.
Yeah.
With your doctor's orders, and then we're going to start off really slow, give you really light and easy jobs, get you comfortable. And then we're just going to keep revisiting that week after week until you're good to go, get you back doing all the different, positions you're going to be put in, carrying the certain packs and tools and anything we want to do, they like take care of. So we're very lucky that way.
Yeah, for sure. We're looking at it through our lens because that's where we're at right now. But that's not going to be the large majority of fire departments. They're not going to have a return to work. They're not even going to have a health and wellness program.
Yeah.
So, although we're fortunate to be able to have that in a large full-time professional fire department, that is missing in probably 80 to 90% of fire departments. So,
well, that's like right where you guys come in, right? And people can start looking into your programs. One of the things we do here in Edmonton, and I know it's been a success. I want to say it's worldwide. I'm pretty sure they took it, and I know some people in the U.S. have heard of it, but it's a reintegration program, and it's like if an officer gets in a shooting, or you have some traumatic event that you go to. There's a number of reasons you can enter into the program, but it's kind of this return to work side of things, and they can bring you back, and it's like easing you into the job at your own pace, and kind of putting you back through, like, they can recreate scenarios. They can, if you're an officer involved shooting, you just get used to hearing gunfire again and then shooting a gun again. So maybe that's something to even look at, because you guys seem like the innovative type. So maybe extending your program in that kind of direction. It's kind of as an idea. But yeah, I think you guys are doing some really cool work. I wondered how the lobbying of this is going. So are a bunch of services interested? Have a bunch of people signed up for it? Is it something that chiefs or government types, like where are you guys at with this right now? What's kind of the successes, and then what's the next steps?
Well, I think for us, it's like we launched it in the spring at one of the Chiefs conferences, and it was a little premature, but we wanted to get it out there and just let them know, make them aware that, hey, we're doing this thing. And for us, it's going to be a continuing, living, breathing entity where we're going to continue to improve upon it and bring in professionals, that are in the fitness field to complement our team. We've reached out, had a lot of really good feedback with a whole bunch of different departments, and we've had departments sign up for both the fitness app and the fitness pins. And we're just going to work on continuing to improve it year after year. But I think for us, it's like trying to understand, we're firefighters. We don't understand what the wants and needs of management are, right? We see it through our bias of like, well, everybody wants to work with somebody who's happy and healthy. And they're like, well, we're really a lot more concerned about, our staffing levels and, our budget. I'm like, okay, well, how do we address those, and how do we see that through their eyes to be able to offer up a solution
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna meet their needs?
Well, and as much as we do have a bias from being the firefighter side of things, we tried to make it for kind of management and the chiefs as well, with how things are implemented. So again, when we like deliver that package of everything they need to know and do, sure, we handle all the data when like information's submitted, but when we get the test results from firefighters, we're now in contact with management saying, hey, we're sending you whatever 30 pins because 30 of your members have passed the fitness test. That's all they hear. That's all they know. So
Okay.
sending them to you. So now the chiefs can go have a positive interaction with their members and say, hey, here,
Yeah.
awesome, congratulations. Here's your pins. They can get photos. There's that positive interaction that isn't always there between management and the firefighting level. And then also
PR angle.
yeah, and then when they sign up, and when we talk about the excuses on the firefighter level of why we don't work out or why we don't want to do certain things or train that day, it's like, well, we're checking those boxes as well for the chiefs, because they can say, well, I've provided you with a fitness program, I've provided you with an incentivized program with the pins, and we have these books in all the halls, and for the departments that do like provide gym equipment or a place to work out, things like that, it's like they're also checking their boxes of like, hey, these are all the things we've provided you. So, now you kind of got to put some skin in the game too, and meet us halfway and do the work as well. So we're trying to check all the boxes as unbiased as we can be. But again, we're just trying to build this thing to provide value for what we see and for our people. And again, this is kind of how this is some of the stuff that we've done routinely over the years, whether it's working out and just taking care of our overall health and wellness, that have kept us doing the job. And I'd like to think
Mm-hmm.
it's at work. And that's kind of a double-edged sword too, right? Like you can take the side of, well, if, we shouldn't be training and we shouldn't be working out and this stuff because we don't want to get hurt. But, if you don't, you can get hurt in other ways. So,
Yeah.
it's like pick pick the evil that you want to choose, right? But at some point, you got to make a decision, and one's going to better your people, and that's kind of the approach we've taken.
And we're trying to stay in our lane too, right, Nathan? Like in terms of,
Yeah.
we know there's a strong connection between mental wellness and physical wellness, right? And I don't know if you've ever heard of like the hope molecule. Have you heard of that?
No.
Yeah. So like 10 years ago, they figured out that when your muscle contracts, it releases like a protein into your bloodstream. And that, that those proteins move around in your system. And not only do they're good for your heart and prevent cancer cells, like they're also a known antidepressant.
Mhm.
So it's like this crazy, we've always thought of it like, hey, after I work out, I feel really good. But by
Yeah.
contracting your muscle, you're releasing these proteins into your blood that are going to make you more resilient and less susceptible to depression, right? All we're doing is providing that framework to do the work and have a plan and to have that bias towards action, and you have to do it.
Yeah. I think the lobbying side of things, when you're talking about earlier, how much is it costing the services to fix some of the problems that people are having after the fact versus, hey, if you would have just maybe helped them on the front end, we get them into, looking at this program. I think that speaks volumes to them. I know it certainly had an impact here when they were talking about getting padded belts and suspenders. And it's like, well, okay, or would you rather pay for workers' compensation down the road for whatever amount of dollars? Because that's going to be a lot more than just buying a few, $300 belts right now for people. So that was a big push on that side of things. And even talking about reintegrating people. So it's like, how much of this fire service here or whichever um, management you're talking to, how many of your people are off? Well, can we get them back to work as fast as possible? Because that's one of the things I always see here, kind of in the wording for our workers' compensation, in some of the legislation, is they're trying to bring people back to a normal working status as possible, as fast as possible, without hurting them anymore. But if we can get people working, it keeps them productive. Keeping people engaged at work also keeps them mentally like happy and engaged, right? Because you feel like you're still useful, you're still a part of the team. So when people just go off and disappear, nobody talks to them. They're out of sight, out of mind. They're not doing any work, maybe. So it's like sit at home and you really feel useless. So we want to get people doing something. So this would be a great way to do that. So
And that's something that we said too, right? Is that like,
Yeah.
when we're at work, whether it's a slow day or a busy day, it's like, it's time to move, time to do something.
yeah,
Movement is medicine. I mean, I'm not the smart person that can recite all these different articles and, you know, sources, but they're out there. There's countless sources of how, your physical wellness relates to your mental wellness, and your mental wellness then relates back to your physical wellness, and then just overall how you feel in terms of confidence, and then how that relates to every other aspect in your life. So yeah, you got to move, you got to get up, you got to move, you got to do things. Right? If we're not training, our skills are gonna diminish. If we're not working out, well, our muscles are gonna diminish, and our demands that we need to meet at work again comes back to that we're not going to be able to meet them even though we want to.
yeah,
Comes back to working in a team, and how do I help my team, and how do I be there for my team and be someone that someone can rely on and they're confident in. And I'm looking for that in my team as well. I want them to be prepared because I'm relying on them. Right. And then obviously the percentages are really low, but if anything bad was to ever happen, like, we're relying on someone else. Right. So
mhm,
always take that approach that, well, people are relying on us, so we have to be ready. But vice versa, we're relying on other people, so they need to be ready. So it is a team thing.
And I think that,
Yeah.
Nathan, you nailed it when you said when you're off, like you feel disconnected, right? Like I was off, I tore my Achilles and was off for a bunch of months. And it's like, yeah, people check in on you. And then after a while, it's like you're not there. So you're not in their consciousness. And, the texts stop rolling in. And then you're like, I haven't been to work. I don't feel like I'm a firefighter, or I'm not there, and I don't feel like part of the team. And it was like, oh man. And it was only like, you know, a handful of months. And I felt like I already felt that creeping feeling of being disconnected and not
Hmm.
being part of that team. And it's like, well, how do we get those people and keep them engaged and have a mechanism to bring them back in?
Well, and the longer
Yeah.
you're off too, the harder it is to come back, right? You lose that confidence. Can I still do this job? Am I going to be, am I going to look bad pulling like a hose line, right? Is it going to fall off my shoulder? Am I going to do something stupid? And so then those self doubt comes in, and again we go back in that full circle of wellness and physical wellness, mental wellness, confidence, and being a capable member of the team.
I think those are all good points. You guys are doing some fantastic work, and I'm happy we could get you on here. We're just at the end of the time. Always wrap up with, can you tell people how they can follow you, find your work? So any websites, social media that you want them to check out?
Well, if you'd like to check out our book, it's on Amazon. It's 100 Fire Hall Workouts. And if you have like anybody that's interested in firefighting, it's a great place to start. You can get that there. We have our website, firefighterfitness.ca, which has access for departments to be able to understand better our firefighter fitness pin award incentive program. And also our app is going to be up there shortly.
So the link on the website is going to be there, but you can find that
Cool.
to be on the whiteboard app, and that's firefighter workouts.
Okay. Yeah, I will have all those links up in the description. I'll remind everybody to like, share, comment on The Quiet Professional, and spread the message, trying to help people out. So Matt and Mark are doing some amazing work, very good cause. So thank you guys for being on the show today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I appreciate you being generous with your time and giving us a voice to try to help other first responders.